Welcome to Rooster Radio, a broadcast dedicated to supporting and promoting local artists in the Gaston County and surrounding areas.
Stint with the Grizzlies. I ran the food and beverage for the Grizzlies from 2010 to 2014. So 5 summers I was the head of food and beverage there.
Oh, right.
And so I was meeting people left and right, and during that time I was single for the most part. It was a good time.
I think for the most part, the three of us were always more on the Zoe's side of things. I definitely my mind can recall Zoe's memories a lot more.
So I had Zoe's kind of. That heyday was right before I moved back home. I moved back home, and Zoe's was there, but I was fighting for custody of my kid. I wasn't really going out a whole lot then. It took me about a year and a half to kind of get settled with being single dad to my boy and getting back into life, figuring out how to work. I couldn't do bartending and managing restaurants anymore once I got custody of him because I had to be at home at night. I had systems in place where he could be in facilities during the day, but I didn't have that coverage at night.
And you just want to be present, I imagine.
Yeah, you want to be there.
Yeah.
So when I was doing that stuff when I was running the food and bev at the Grizzlies, I had started my first business. So I was working a lot, and I was paying out of pocket for nursing care because back then we didn't have the systems in place that we have now that helps us care for him and stuff. So it was I worked my ass off. I mean, that was like my whole basically late 20s, early 30s. I was grinding like a motherfucker, man. Just and it worked. It worked out,
So far, yeah.
So I can't complain. But Freeman's. I got a lot of fond memories there. I had a lot of fun
I do too,
there.
for the most part. Yeah. They are all stabbing and gunshot wound related, but some of them are.
No,
So
I was there for one of them.
I'm way out of touch. Are they still open or have they closed?
They
They
closed.
closed. You know that? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, they closed. Unfortunately, that had that. Everyone's got a different story about that, but what it boiled down to is the guy that owns that place didn't want that bar there anymore.
Yeah, I can
So he made sure that and now he's
Old Brad.
and it's been it was April, right? So it's been 3/4 of a year and nothing's there yet.
They've only put paper on the windows on the inside. That's it.
According to Brad, that place needed so much work that he had grandfathered in that whoever bought it after that was going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it's going to be really expensive to bring that kitchen up to code.
But all of that is trunicated by the fact that it was featured in Bad Grandpa, which is something
I forgot about that.
I will never forget about this.
Yeah, that was a fun movie.
It was
This is
featured in
what-
what?
Bad Grandpa? You ever see that?
Yes.
You remember the part in the bar?
No, I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
It's toward the end.
It's the
Yeah.
big ultimate motorcycle gang
Oh,
moment
boy.
near the end is in Freeman's.
I'm just such a jackass
Interesting.
fan that really I take a lot of pride
I
in
am
that.
too, and I was like, oh my god, I love Johnny Knoxville. We're just
Yeah, I'm
leaving it
just
at
waiting for our opportunity. I actually had twice. I've had production companies reach out to us about shooting either a TV show or part of a movie here.
Yeah.
And one of them, I was really, really close to the finish line, and it would have been really lucrative for me.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the reason they didn't go with us is because they were really looking for more of like a country music bar.
No.
And this place is a little more
Just
artsy.
give everybody a cowboy hat. It's like,
Well, it's the decor. It's the decor. Like they would have had to spend more on budget to
I
like
understand.
redecorate this place to make it look more country. We have more of an artsy vibe.
they were shooting a movie around here.
Oh,
I
they
think.
still are.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
Shannon Tatum's down in South Carolina, and I think Sydney Sweeney's doing one right down the road, right?
Well, not last night, night before last. They were filming right here at Social Services in the courthouse.
I saw a set on 74, I guess, a while back when
Yeah.
I was going to vote.
We need a reality show.
Yeah.
Gastonia is a reality show.
Yeah, we really
Just set up
do.
some cameras and
We need,
Yeah,
we need,
let
we
it
need
happen.
it.
Let
It
it
needs to
happen.
be layered to where like we're telling two stories. One would be the Gastonia story, and the other would be like the Belmont Mount Holly story, and like have it like run concurrent.
be
where-
like upstairs, downstairs.
Yeah, yeah. We need that reality show to happen.
Yeah.
Like the contrast, like we're such a small community, but there's over 300,000 people in this county, right?
Yeah.
But it still feels like a small town in
Yeah.
all of the little municipalities. And that's the other weird thing about Gaston County is there's like 14 incorporated municipalities in this one county. That's like crazy.
That
like,
is a good point.
Yeah.
They all have the very distinct character. Lincolnton's the one I think of the most.
Well, Lincoln's in
favorite-
Lincoln County, but
Oh, yeah, it is.
the
Scratch that.
fun one is Delview, right?
I've never been to
Delview
Delview.
is it's kind of out near in between like Cherville and like Iron Station, and Delview.
Never heard of it.
Delview was incorporated over a fight over two neighbors and a dog.
Oh yeah, baby.
So there was a neighbor that had a lot of complaints about their neighbor's dog,
Yeah.
but the neighbor who had the dog had a friend in Raleigh and was able to get Delview incorporated as its own municipality so that they could write their own statutes about dog laws.
This is
Oh my god!
That's how Delview became a city.
Wow.
I mean, it's not really
I
a
just
city;
learned
it's a
something.
Sounds
township.
like a dulled down Hatfields and McCoy kind
I'm
of thing.
pretty sure
Right?
Dell was the last name of the family or something
that's
like
the
that.
most Scotch-Irish kind of Southern
Yeah.
story here, honestly.
But yeah, there's a lot of and in a lot of ways, like in a lot of ways, it makes us unique. It's kind of a fun, cool story. You can talk about the ways because Gaston County was Lincoln County for years and years. It wasn't until I want to say the late 1800s or early 1900s that Gaston County. That's why that line is so straight between Lincoln and Gaston is because
I know what you
Dallas became the county seat for Gaston County and was for years and years and years.
I think I'm in terms of like regional accents, I've always been most jealous of people from Lincolnton. I
Yeah?
like their specific flavor of Southern accent. I
Yeah.
really do. Something about it is always like, yeah, that's
I
the
don't
one.
think I've ever. Now I'm going to start listening to see
You'll
if I can
notice it.
pinpoint the
Just
dialect.
walk around Lincoln and just like, oh yeah.
I used to hang out in Lincolnton way too much.
I used to
See,
work
this is
out
why
there.
this is why it's fun to read, right? When you read, like
Amen.
you learn fun stuff,
Yeah.
about your community. But
Read a book.
but no, there's a lot of like with 13, 14 municipalities in one county, like the allocation of resources gets stretched real thin, right? So there's an argument to be made where some of these smaller townships could be incorporated. Like, for example, you've got McAdenville, Lowell, and Ranlow. Those are three very small communities and Lowell used to have their own police department. I think they merged with Cramerton, but Ranlow still has their own police. And then you've got
Correct.
Mount Holly and you've got Belmont that both have their own police department. So in five very small communities, you've got four infrastructures that's sharing a piece of the pie from the state, right? Well, if you consolidated those into maybe two cities, to where there's only two police departments instead of four, and like you could more efficiently use resources from the state to make these communities better. But
I ain't merging with
but
nobody.
by doing that, you've got people that work for Cramerton, people that work for Lowell, people that work for McCanville, some of these people are going to lose their jobs.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the argument against like consolidating the resources.
Zach has lived in Lowell longer than I have, but I love it. I love that place.
Lowell's a great little.
It's Lowell.
Lowell's a cool little town.
enjoy
It's nice.
I could see living in McAdenville just as McAdenville, but for the tourist aspect of it because of how it's been like that for so long. But
Yeah.
everybody else, y'all just go together.
Well, McAdenville's the town that the Farr family built.
We don't hang out much, but anytime we do, I'm always like, oh, it's good to see Michael.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite things about
He's got something to say.
the relationships that I'm building here with this place is I get to have some really fun discussions and intimate conversations and get to know. I'm the type of person that wants to know perspectives. I want to know where people are coming from, and I think that all started in junior high for me. I was raised in a Pentecostal church, and that's all I knew. Perfect example, Paul Huddleston. Shout out to Paul Huddleston, the guy I've known since like junior high, right? He's got a little kid now, and he was here Wednesday at open mic, and we were chatting up, and he was talking about how his kid was at school. He's in kindergarten. He was asking the other kids, "What instrument does your dad play?" Because he's playing guitar at home all the time. And the kids and this kid just thought that everyone's dad played guitar or something, right? Like, because that's all he knew. So like I had that with like the whole church thing, and I get in, and once I got out of elementary and into junior high, I started meeting all these people from different walks of life.
Yeah.
I grew up in like a Pentecostal Southern Baptist community. Everyone went to church, and then like we're getting kids from like different elementary schools that have different communities, and it's like, wait a minute, you can, like, you don't do this, or you can do that, and then so like you're already dealing with all of the emotions and hormones and everything of junior high, middle school, and then you're learning that everything is bullshit because like there's all these other ways to live life, and so I've always been super curious about where people are coming from and what their story is, because I feel like on some small level I was cheated knowledge.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Curiosity, I think, is the most important trait to nurture, and one of the ones that will be most likely stolen from you by society. And by virtue of being curious, you have to be willing to say, well, I'm curious about knowledge. I'm curious about other people's perspectives, which is part of knowledge, essentially.
Yeah. And art is the biggest way to do that, which makes sense why you ended up here. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
a lot of different kinds
full
of
circle
art.
There. Yeah,
they're all valid.
No, it's great because like I believe that pragmatism is more important than like conviction. Like yes, I'm convicted and I have conviction in the things I believe in, but I'm pragmatic when it comes to dealing with people in business. Right? Like you have to be.
Yeah.
If you want to have any level of success, sticking to your guns is fine, and you should. If you believe in something, you should see it through. That's what I'm doing. But at some point, you're going to reach a time, or you're going to reach a situation where you have to put that on the shelf for a minute to try to understand where someone else is coming from, or find a way to work together with somebody. I'm not saying that you should dismiss your beliefs or do something you don't believe in. I'm saying that you should be more pragmatic when you approach life and dealing with people. We all have a different background. We all come from different places. That's the reason this country's so up in arms about everything, is nobody has a willingness to have empathy and understand where someone else is coming from. You talk to a fucking, guy who works at a bank, who golfs on the weekends and uses terms like pull yourself up by your bootstraps. They have no fucking clue what it's like to grow up with one parent in the house that's addicted to fucking crack, and like you have no community and no one there for you in your formative years, and then you get to adulthood and you have no fucking idea how to handle life.
Well, the second trait worth nurturing to curiosity is humility, essentially, and part of humility is, once again, coming back to perspective, where it's like sometimes you got lucky beyond your control, and not everyone's had the same situation.
Right.
So thusly, you should count your blessings and also be willing to listen to other sides.
It's just nice to listen to people.
It's
I
just
think
nice to listen to
That's all
people.
it comes down to, really.
You're right. It is. I want to hear people's stories. Some of them are more interesting than others, but it's still nice. You walk away with a better understanding of your neighbor or friend or whatever, and then now you've got a different perspective to see things, different lens to look at things through too.
Lenses are important.
Well, how many times have you found yourself banging your head against the wall trying to like figure out a problem, and then all you need is for somebody to come along with a different perspective and be like, fuck, I never looked at it that way before.
And if you put it out there, usually that person will find you.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And that's what's great about music, right?
Yeah, bringing it back around.
Yeah, let's.
No, it's all about like letting go of control, really. And I think what keeps us together as a band is that we just have worked together so long now that I can make something, send it to these guys, and they just do it without having to like we have discussions about what we want out of it, but we already know each other so well and trust each other and just let them speak on it, you know?
Yeah, it's really cool that you guys are still doing your thing. I mean, of the three of you, I would assume Gavin's probably the busiest, and you live the furthest away.
Maybe busiest musically, but
Well, you've got so much going on but you still have a commitment to this
definitely
family, this
Yeah.
band, and you guys still, it's like I've got friends, like when I was in my 20s, I lived on the other side of the state, and I made all these great friendships and relationships with these people that I almost never see anymore. But when I see them, it's like nothing's changed, right? It's like we've all grown and matured, and we've got our lives now, but we can get together and have a blast and still have that same love for each other that we had 10, 15 years ago. And it's kind of the vibe I get with you guys is y'all can step away for a year or two and then come back and it's not nothing's changed.
Yeah, I will say that we're really trying to not do that as much. Like, we're trying to stick around.
We just want to make more music.
Because I really look at, like, what we're stepping into with these upcoming shows as, like, the new era. I know a lot of people think of things that way, but
A new chapter in the story.
yeah. Well, quite literally, probably.
Yeah.
But you know how I make everything a concept. But but yeah, we're working on singles right now. I think singles is the easiest stress-free way of making music now with the landscape, even though I love albums. But that's kind of where we're at, and we've been at it, like, Def King is 10 years old next year, so we don't want something new.
We don't want to be like Tool, where it's like an album every 50 years. Like, I don't want to be like that.
Have
I
you-
just want to put new stuff out.
Do you have any plans, or have you started writing another novel? Like, are you, or a continuation of the story, or anything like that? Or are you doing that with the music?
Yeah, starting with it always starts with the music for me, and then branches out into me writing. So, like, Def King, we did the album, and then I wrote the novel, and the one before that, Offices, I wrote the short story after the album. But so I let it kind of breathe and see where it's gonna go. I can say stylistically, I mean, you can look at the bill I put together, like Fury and Welcoming, like they're heavier than we have been, or you're probably used to with us, and that's because that's the direction we want to take things. I'm like super lucky that they wanted to do it, because I just basically handpicked my favorites around here. So,
Well, we've kind of buried the lead. First and foremost, we're talking to Morrowville, in case you didn't know. And they have a show coming up here on the 15th, 16th.
I think
gosh.
later.
Sixth.
It's Saturday.
I think it's
It's
the
Saturday the
16th. I'm pretty
16th.
it is
Damn, I'm so bad
16th.
about
We
that.
are doing a little outing 14, 15, 16, and we're ending here. So,
Yeah, so you can come here and see Morrowville with Oh You Pretty Things, The Welcoming, and Fury 58. And I will be honest, when you were sending me the lineup, I was like surprised. I was like, okay, this is different, because
I even questioned it. I was like, are we sure about this?
well, I love it because it's all four of these bands are different styles.
Yeah.
You guys are more progressive. Oh You Pretty Things is more poppy. Fury, they like we've talked a lot about Fury here lately, but they're
I
more
like them a lot.
yeah, they're so much fun.
I like them a lot.
Yeah,
They are.
they're more like hard, heavy rock,
Yeah.
kind of mixed with the '80s, glam flair.
I
Yeah.
hear the Avenged Sevenfold in them, and I love
Yeah.
Avenged Sevenfold.
and
So.
their whole horror angle, like, I mean, that's totally up my alley. Like, it may not be apparent, but Morrowville's stories are like straight horror as well. So, I haven't really gotten to talk to them, but I've seen them play. And basically, the way it worked out is I hit up The Welcoming when I was in Witch Motel. The Welcoming and I played together, great fit, exchanged information, and then I was like, "Hey, you want to do something?" And they knew Fury, and they're like, "What about these guys?" I was like, "Yes,
Yeah.
please." So
We're just
it
trying
all
to-
kind of worked out. But I think we're, like I said, we're a new era, so we're trying to go in a new direction.
So is that scary? Like, you hear of bands that are, really popular, and they go away for a little bit and they come back and they're almost a totally different band and everybody hates them.
I'm glad you think we're popular.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going with that because like
in my mind, you guys are awesome.
we are
right? So-
we are. I feel like we're resetting our fan base because, I mean, frankly, like we were at this like 10 years ago with Zoe's and Freeman era, like we were talking about, and a lot of those folks have kids and don't go out anymore, and like. You know, the last shows we had here, you may remember we did the whole like throwing of the roses thing. That whole idea, maybe I didn't think about it at the time, but I feel like it's sort of a waving goodbye to that era, that fan base, and saying thank you.
We're trying to ingratiate ourselves into the world of metal. Because,
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
we all
basically-
like metal in our own different ways,
Yeah.
for sure.
We're acting like this is a new band because it is kind of. Though, that being said, we did play a show at a random house in South Carolina recently, and some college kids showed up singing along to the Deaf King. So I was like, what is happening right
Wow.
now?
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Shout out to Joe's Crab Shack in Seneca, South Carolina.
Nice.
Unrelated to the restaurant, or if
Yes.
that's still.
Oh, I was gonna.
I
I
was gonna
thought. I
say,
thought
it's still
for.
around?
I thought you were talking about.
No,
Just
it is.
Crab
It is a.
It's
It is a
just a house.
bachelor pad. It is
Oh, okay.
a true house. Yeah.
Run
But
by some great
honestly,
lads.
Regarding the metal thing, like all three of us have had a massive metal influence, like for pretty much our entire lives.
What's your biggest one, you'd say?
I mean, starting early, like Tool and
Mastodon
like,
for me.
Mastodon, yeah, fantastic. Like Danny Carey, when I was like 7 years old, is one of the big reasons why I was like, yeah, I need to play drums. Like, because Danny Carey
Adam
is just
Jones's wife started playing guitar as well. So
See,
I
there
think
you
it
go.
goes back to
You know.
Tool for us, kind of.
Not as much
Yeah.
for me, I will admit, but
and System of a Down too, which I know you're a big fan of.
definitely System of a
Of
Down.
course. So, you know, a lot of those early ones. So I think it's been in all of us, but now we're just wanting to actually do something with that. So it'll be
Was
pretty
there
cool.
was there a hesitation to go heavy early, or were you just kind of putting what was in you out? Like, was it because this sounds like you're being more intentional now, where maybe before you had this story inside of you that needed to be told.
That's a good question, actually.
Yeah, I think it was natural. I mean, obviously, I love a lot of different music, and I think with me being a writer, I'm lyrics heavy. So a lot of early stuff I did solo was like folk, indie rock adjacent. So, and I didn't have a drummer, so it slowly evolved from me and Jason playing, you know, acoustic indie shows together into having Gavin in the picture. So it became indie rock, I think, by default of like going from like folk songs to a band.
It was also the peak era of indie rock, I'd say, those years for sure.
Can I be honest with you? And I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody, but that like mid 2000s era when like when MTV was still doing like reality shows, and like every song in an MTV show was like this airy kind of folky indie rock. It's like
Stomp clap era.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stomp clap.
yeah, I was so fucking annoyed by that era of music, because some of my best friends were like, every time you see them, oh, have you heard of Ockerville River? I'm like, no.
Shout out to them, though. That's
I know. Look, the only band like Kings of Leon and all that stuff.
I love Kings of Leon. though.
They're great musicians. It just wasn't speaking to me. Like it just wasn't.
Think about all the people that got married to stomp clap songs, and it was like the best moment in their life. Though,
Yeah.
like, hey ho, smooch smooch, will
There's
you marry
a
me? That kind
couple
of
of
stuff.
bands that stood out for me. The Decemberists, I like that.
Yeah.
I love
They're
Decemberists,
great.
yeah.
The Lumineers, the first album,
They're pretty good.
I loved it. But like the majority of that stuff, it to me sounded like I was listening to the same song over and over and
It
over
was a
again.
vibe, very specific.
And
yeah.
and
commercial expendable music.
Yeah.
It's designed to be in a season and then you never hear it again. And when you do, you go, oh yeah, I didn't really miss that.
but with the difference being, it was very like earthy tone kind of stuff, which is kind of uncommon. I'd
Yeah,
say.
yeah. Well, it was like it's always like a caricature of the good thing. Like
Yeah.
Gautier with somebody that I used to know, I think was like kind of a really, really good start for that era. And then everybody was like, okay, we're gonna do our kind of like folky version of that, and it was garbage. Like
Yeah.
Lumineers makes me angry when I hear them. Like,
Oh man,
sorry, sorry. Stomp
I like their
Hey.
I like their second album a lot.
They've got a couple bangers, but for the most part,
well, a lot of that music is like mood music, right? You have to be in the mood to hear that. Well,
I'm sorry, this is not one that era of music that I really cared for either.
yeah.
No, it wasn't really.
That was not a mood for me.
Let's bring us
Sorry.
back a little bit.
Well,
'cause,
if
like,
you're
I wouldn't
watching
say-
Catfish on MTV, that's the perfect time to play that music.
I wouldn't say anything I've done is that. Meets
No,
that,
I'm not
though.
saying that either. We were just referring to the
We
era.
did it.
Yeah.
We did an indie folk album, but that definitely was not Stomp Clap for sure.
No, the Eni Arden album is in that wheelhouse, but that's fucking great songwriting, man. That album was a
I agree.
masterpiece.
It was
Yeah,
fun.
I mean, everything I think I do by default has like a darker edge to it, so it would be surprising if I were to do a stomp clap, type of approach.
yeah, it's more of
But-
a like Bright Eyes, like Elliott Smith kind of influence. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, it's definitely like
Which is the bright
The-
side of that.
for bright
side of things.
Yeah, for lack of a better word, emo. We definitely come from like more emo.
Emo
roots.
light?
Yeah, I guess.
Just by
I don't even
virtue-
know any more about genres. All I know is I
You
love
just make music, right?
heavy stuff and I love atmospheric stuff and
Well,
anywhere in between.
The emo thing specifically is because that's the era that we grew up in. I mean, I was in
Yeah.
high school in the early 2000s. I was in emo bands. Everyone had MySpace hair and like that. Yeah,
I was
for
a
sure.
bigger. I mean, I'm not a huge emo fan, but there are some
You had to be there.
gems, right? Like AFI is one of my favorite
Oh,
bands.
AFI, yeah.
They're great, and I can get in like Panic at the Disco is at at the time we were kind of emo band. I was more annoyed by like some of the whiny punk pop stuff, like that stuff. Like when that like I'm one of the only people on the planet that's not like a huge Blink 182 fan. And the reason why is because that shit was so fucking whiny, man. All I could
Just the
hear was like,
voice.
wah.
Yeah, I'm
The
not
earlier stuff
I'm
wasn't
with
as
you.
whiny as the later stuff, though.
Yeah, and
Self-titled album's really good though.
I mean, look, they have great songs. Okay, they have great songs. They got anthems that everybody. I mean, I wasn't a fan, and I still can sing along, right? Like that's
Okay.
how big they were.
Yeah.
So and I'm not hating on them. Look, they're very talented guys. They deserve all the success in the world. I just don't like the whiny stuff.
I felt that way about My Chemical Romance. When I was in high school in bands, like 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge.
I've
Is that what
since
it's
gotten
called?
yeah.
Thank you.
I've gotten you into them probably
Well,
since.
well, as time has gone on, I've just really appreciated them as songwriters. But back in like the 2000s, I was just like, I guess, whatever. Everybody around me was.
I think
losing
we're
their
just
mind.
in a beautiful era now where there's no guilty pleasures in music, so
Right,
you can
yeah.
kind of freely like whatever you like. And I do think metal went through a period of it not being cool, and I think with like metalcore bands taking off again, now like I don't know what's a good example, Spirit Box or Sleep Token, even like there's stuff coming out that a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life like and aren't just like quote unquote metalheads.
Yeah.
I think it's cool because you can just listen to anything and be like, I'm happy this exists.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
finding its way into like mainstream genres too. Like I know Zach really likes poppy.
Yeah, I love
Dude,
Poppy.
Poppy's awesome.
It's just like and here's a metal section, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know,
She's
So-
doing whatever she wants. Like,
Yeah,
it's kind of like what you're doing now. You're like, I wouldn't say change. I would say evolution. You guys are kind of evolving into a different sound. You're at an age and time in your life where this is making more sense, and this is kind of what's coming out of you.
Yeah, usually bands go the other direction. They start super heavy, and then by their like 8th album, they're super chill,
True.
and we're just getting
There's
heavier.
nothing,
and
there's
heavier.
nothing wrong with being experimental too.
You know why? It's because you're still hungry. You're not millionaires yet.
right.
It's really hard to
Yeah.
have that visceral
We haven't
thing
been
inside of
worn
you that
down.
makes great
I'm
heavy
not a
songs when
billionaire.
you got a ton of money.
And we haven't been worn down by tours. We haven't even gotten really to do that yet. So we're still hungry for all that too.
I think we all definitely love to see when a song's done. It's like, here you go. Good luck. And you kind of cast it off and throw it into the world. and
It is a
move on.
nice day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes
birthed it.
it takes like a lot of effort, very uniquely for all of us to get to the finish line for a new song. As far as how it's been recorded, released, the whole thing. And I think it's satisfying for all three of us in different ways. And that might be the driving force to why we're even still a band.
For solo stuff, like I do a lot of like instrumental solo music. When that's done, all I have to really do is account for what I want in it. But with the band, it's just like, at the end of the day, you have three people that have to like all come together and make this thing happen. So it is more complicated.
Who's the perfectionist that you're always waiting on to finalize a song?
I think we're all perfectionists in our own ways.
Yeah.
I mean, I would point the finger at myself, definitely, because we had about 3 albums worth of material between our last one and now that, for various reasons, I decided not to pursue. And I was like very in my own head about it being a certain way. And it usually resulted in me writing all of it but never recording it, because I've really had a big hang up with recording. I hate recording. I love playing live, but when we first started, I mixed everything for us, and slowly over time, I had to let that go because it drove me crazy, and I just don't want anything to do with mixing anymore or recording. I've gotten a healthier relationship with that now because I've adopted more of a just like enjoying the process more than the finished product. But it does feel good, like you're saying, to just finish something.
Sounds like you don't like the tedious stuff.
Well, the thing too is like I think Gavin does this professionally. I do this for fun, but we both have definitely just recorded so much music. It's one of those things that the more you do it, the less it stings. It never goes away truly, but I think everybody starts from a place of like, this thing I've made is terrible. What am I doing? But if he's kind of
you have to turn that off and just make something, because after it's done, you can look at it and appreciate it. But I think
never
that's
goes away, though, for sure.
And that's also part of going heavier, because I think when I sit down with a guitar, I naturally just play like thrash riffs and stuff. So before, it was like, let me write this really, thought out, delicate, crazy guitar part. And now I'm just like, let me just write the first thing that comes out and follow that.
I've always been so inspired by new metal era bass lines, like just everything on Biscuit specifically, that any excuse to try to like go back to that.
That twang, that ding in there.
No, and I think both of their relationships kind of work really well with my part of the process of I always like a challenge, even if it drives me absolutely insane. And yeah, I think for like several years now, I've been going down the like mixing mastering road of like, how does one do this and it actually sound good?
How do I make it sound
How
good?
do you do this, and how do you make the general public go, that's it? Like, absolutely.
I think he's done a good job at that personally.
I'm getting there. But I think these guys have been super helpful in that process, because whenever we record stuff and they send me notes, I know the first like song we did, which I don't even think it's on YouTube, but it's not on streaming. What's that tune again?
So are you talking about Freya?
Freya, yeah. We all about went crazy trying to get like the best sounding mix and master. And
did I end up mixing that
you
one?
Did,
okay.
You did, yeah. And you mixed it. I ended up mastering it.
You did a good job mastering.
Well, thank you. Good job mixing it. But
it was hard, actually.
Yeah, it really was. And that was a particularly difficult track because, I mean, it had over 80, 90 instrument tracks in it between strings and bells, and just it was really, really overproduced, but in a fun way. And I think just along things like Freya and Fenrir and other songs that we've been working on, just getting their feedback has made me go. Fenrir, yeah.
So are you writing a Viking album?
That's what I was about to say. Is it got a whole Norse thing going on?
No, so Freya was. It's funny that both of those names came up right next to each other, but
too many F
they're
words.
Not related. Freya was part of a different project that he was talking about with all the bells and whistles, literally like the. We had been doing an album that was just heavy strings that we started during the pandemic because we couldn't like be together. So we were like, okay, well, let's do something that you can't recreate live. And that's what Freya was. Fenrir is the one we just put out. That's actually finally available on all streaming. We had it on just a music video for a while.
For that one, Gavin and I had a mix off, and he smoked me. I made a mix. He made a mix, and I was like, "Nah, it's Gavin's mix." He absolutely fucking
Appreciate it, bud.
he
Appreciate it.
obliterated me.
Yeah.
I was like, "I think you should do this now for Morrowville."
But no, I think just like between you guys and other like clients and artists and people that I've worked with, but especially these guys, I've gotten such just clear, good feedback of make it sound like blank. And then they'll even give me examples of, hey, go listen to this band. It's got exactly what we're looking for. And up in that point of the process of me learning how to mix and whatnot, I was like not really using reference tracks, not really like listening to other professional things. I was just like experimenting with what was set in front of me. So they just like changed my workflow and are probably a pretty good reason why I like make part of my living mixing now. So
we're all guilty of hating to use
you
reference tracks, though. It's like, I don't want to listen to this.
I don't
got
wanna
this
listen to
figured
reference
out.
track.
I can figure it out.
mixing engineers use a reference
Use
track
reference tracks
every
gang.
time. But anyway, so yeah.
See,
we
this
all-
is what I diss myself. I write the song and then I'll let them do that.
So important.
but it translates like what you're wanting to get out of it, and it takes out that step that would end up ultimately taking it away from you if you had to mix, you know.
And when I think about mixing this, that always gives more. I'm always just trying to think about what can I say to squeeze more emotion out of the song.
Sure.
It's never like more 5K. It's just like, I don't know, make this vocal in the background louder because it makes like me feel it more. That's all I can think of, really.
Now, on the 16th, are we going to be hearing the all new stuff?
No, we're not quite to that level yet. We're hoping to debut a new song, but it just depends if we make it there. I know Gavin's working on stuff, but he's literally he's challenging himself to just start using double bass because of metal. And but that's like, how's that going, by the way?
Pretty good. Good. Yeah. Not bad. Yeah. So, the hurricane hit all of us, and in where I live, we didn't have power for 6 days, and it's been a heap of things. I ended up with a stomach ulcer that I got, like a week or two ago, diagnosed with, and it sucks. So playing has been a little less fun, but up until that point, I was practicing double bass every single day, and it's coming along pretty well. And I think it's going to be one of the Zach has a drop pedal that is going to make our sound much heavier, and me doing some double bass stuff and changing some tuning and things is going to.
Are you having
go
fun
along
with it
too.
with the double bass?
So what?
Are you having fun with?
Oh
the
yeah,
double bass?
yeah.
Drumming's a
Did you
wildly
have to
physical
work to
activity.
get your left calf?
So I'm so left foot independent anyway on my hi-hat. I keep time on it all the time that I think I saved myself some work in the long run. And I've done some double bass in the past whenever I've been hired to do sessions where they're like, hey, man, can you do some double bass? And I'll be like,
Yes, sir.
yes, but I'm going to have to clean it up later in post.
I want to hear some of this new stuff.
I was gonna say, how about the vocals? Did you have to learn how to growl? And
I'm working on that. That's it's definitely a work in progress. I can send you a demo, but
It's gotten a lot better too.
I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
I am definitely trying to growl and scream now a lot, and but there's still, it still sounds like us, but it's just heavier. And even Fenrir, if you've heard that, I mean, maybe you can play that one ahead of this podcast, but
Sure.
you can hear
Yeah.
the heavy starting to enter the picture, I
Pretty
think.
heavy song, but it still has melody.
Yes, we always focus on like memorable chorus and melody at the end of the day. We
not like
still
Carol.
love pop and stuff, but yeah, I'm
Are
excited.
you moving away from the progressive nature of your songwriting? Or
No, in fact, I'd say this metal
Leaning
is
into
pretty
it.
like
It's
progressive
leaning into
metal.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because that's what, like I said, when I sit down on a guitar, that's what pops out. A lot of crazy riffs that used to sound like, Midwest emo slidey stuff. Now
Yeah.
sounds like
We were never Midwest emo. we were too distorted.
I will let them decide. Does any of our stuff sound Midwest emo to you? Like
you know what that is?
I honestly don't have a point. I don't have a point
Okay,
of
well,
reference.
yeah. So
isn't that just country music?
Clean like country
I
music,
mean-
yes.
Yeah, I mean your
truck ran
music.
away.
I mean, comparison is the thief of joy, and I tried my best not to compare bands, but sometimes you need a point of reference for
I do it all the
people that
time.
haven't heard it to kind of give them an idea.
at first, I
But
thought
I would-
you were saying we sounded like a band called Thief of Joy.
That
And I
has
was
to be a band
This
somewhere.
is-
Badass
That's
band
kind
name.
of badass. Yeah.
It's probably a Midwest emo band.
Probably.
I would say you are a more modern, heavier Rush. Like it's kind of no. Don't make that face because Rush is probably the most successful progressive rock band, right? And you guys are in that wheelhouse, but you don't sound like Rush. You have that like bass line.
I've always thought of us, and this is me being so cocky, but I've always thought of us like the more indie rock version of the Police. My favorite
indie rock version of
the Police.
The
My favorite
Police?
3-piece band. I mean, I just love the Police. I really do. And that's why I always think about like the dynamics of this band a lot. It's
We don't have the ska thing in it.
no, but like just the love of melody and experimentation in the Police. I'm not saying we sound like them, but I wish we did. I guess maybe a little bit. I always love the Police.
You know, I think the Rush thing isn't completely off base because like I grew up, as most rock drummers do, studying Neil. You know,
Well, I mean, that's my point. Like, you're playing complex, you know, the way I don't have the deep terminology for
Sure,
drums,
yeah.
but the way you play drums is difficult for a novice. Like you need to be a really good drummer to do what you do.
I would attest to
Appreciate
that.
You know, and the way you play bass is very similar to the way Geddy Lee plays
I do
bass.
love Fender jazz
Yeah.
basses. Sure. Like,
Yeah, and it's just, you know, the big difference is Alex Lifeson he's kind of off. You know, he kind of reminds me of the guitar player for Primus. It's like he's kind of
Hey.
doing his own thing while the rhythm section's the star of the show. Whereas Zach doesn't do that. He's riffing, you know, whereas Lifeson, he's kind of more like David Gilmour than anybody else on guitars.
Lifeson's a great guitar player. I'll admit I've just never been a Rush guy.
I get it. A lot of people
I don't
are.
know
Like,
why.
people kind of associate them with nerds and this and
Why?
that because
So
it's
many-
like the Kiss versus Rush thing, you know.
So many bass players that inspired me. Tim Comerford from Rage Against the Machine. He's the biggest Rush guy ever. So many people that I've been inspired by.
Yeah, I think
definitely
that's
Rush
what it is.
fans.
Is like we all listen to a lot of music that was influenced by Rush,
Twice
but not
removed.
necessarily
Yeah.
Rush.
I said, it's a baseline because, I mean, locally, I'd say Venus Invictus is a good comparison. They're a little heavier, which sounds like you might be getting more close to what they do now because the way that they play is kind of similar to the way you play. They're just a lot heavier than what you've done in the past.
Yeah.
I think truthfully, when like if you're
That'd be a good pairing, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's note that down.
if you're a musician in a band, the things you're probably thinking about, like what influenced you, is probably the thing no one's thinking of. So, like for me, it's always just been like Juan Alderete from the Mars Volta, or like Mastodon, as I mentioned.
You going to go see Mars Volta?
Yeah,
I
actually,
got
yeah,
I'll be there. I can't fucking wait, dude. That's
I've
going to
never
be
seen
such
him
a killer
live.
show.
But so yeah, I think in the end, like, and this happens so many times in music, like somebody walks up to you and it's like, "Hey, man, you sound like you heard this band Budicus Dudicus?" And you're like, "I don't know who Budicus Dudicus is," and it's like, "Yeah, but you sound just like them," and they play Budicus Dudicus for you, and they sound like Morrowville, and you're like, "Well, I see what you mean, but I've just never was inspired by Budicus Dudicus." So
But then you can look at the commonality and say, oh, that kind of sounds like Rush.
precisely.
We get, you know what? The one we get a lot, or we did get a lot, that always bothered me
Don't
was.
say it.
I'm going to say it.
Oh, no.
Modest Mouse?
Modest Mouse.
Ah.
Yeah. Which I like Modest Mouse.
I think
For
that's because
sure.
of your voice. I think
And see,
people are
that's
hearing
the
your
thing
voice.
Is I don't want to do the Bobcat Goldthwait like thing that he does.
The timbre is similar. I cannot lie. I understand the comparison.
Yeah, but I will say, I do think that, I really do think that your voice has developed a lot over the years, and maybe
Agreed.
like 2008 to 2012, 2014, maybe that was true. But I remember whenever I like left this area, went to Greenville and the whole thing, and we weren't really doing the band thing. Zach was doing a lot of any Arden stuff. And a lot of like other things, and was doing stuff with Witch Motel. And then we just didn't play a lot of music together for a while.
Yeah.
And then whenever we kind of regrouped, it was like, whoa, Zach, your voice is like, it's different. Like you sing like, you know, like a grown man now. Because well, it's like because you are a grown man now, and you weren't then like as much, you know. So
Little baby
like,
grew up.
You know, I practiced like the set all the way to the live album we did because the songs are there, and like, yeah, your voice has definitely improved since then, immeasurably. Like,
Well, thanks, guys.
yeah, your intonation has like really
Yeah.
locked in. Like we can.
Well, your
Most definitely.
voice. Well, I mean, from your voice has got a lot to do with why your music hits the way it does. The inflection, like you, it seems like from an untrained mind, it seems like you're being very intentional with where you put the inflection of words and how you know, the melody that you put in a song. It's almost like your voice is following the emotion of each line.
Yeah, it's like what I said earlier about being a writer first and how I'm lyrics forward. And coming back to like some of my folk influences being like Conor Oberst of Bright Eyes, where he's not a good singer, but he's like an awesome lyricist. And that's like kind of the point.
Bob Dylan complex.
Yeah, the Bob Dylan thing.
Yeah.
And so I've just kind of leaned into that as my strength, although over the years I've just worked on singing better.
I can say that like I don't know a single lyric to any of our songs, but the melodies I can like hear instantaneously for sure. Like,
And that means that it's more than just the words, so that's good to hear.
Yeah.
But
That's literally me with every song. I'm so bad with lyrics, but I can hum the
Hell
melodies.
my man.
I
Yeah.
love lyrics. I love writing. So, yeah, that's why I always inflect. I think I'm thinking about the words that I'm saying as I'm singing them. It's not just the melody or the feel. So,
I think because I love Motown so much, that's why I'm always just like more melody, more melody. Like that music was just like just weapons grade melody all over the place. So I love it so much.
Yeah,
And
we definitely went through an era there for a minute. What's that song that we have? I ask about it kind of often, but we did it the recording at Petra's. It's the super groovy one.
Modern Sympathy.
Modern Sympathy. Man, we went through
Good
this whole
song.
era of like ultra groovy rock with like Darren King and who was the band that Darren King played for?
Mute Math.
Mute Math. It was very Mute Math Morrowville, which is weird.
We should bring some of that back with the metal, I think.
with the
I'm
metal.
sure
yeah,
we
yeah.
will.
We most likely will.
Gavin and I are always locking in.
But
You can
yeah,
tell, I was just saying, you can tell we've had many eras like that just never went anywhere, like I was saying earlier.
but also they weren't like,
Evolution, man. It's evolution.
Yeah, we weren't like super intentional about them either. We were just like, and this is what's happening. This is what we sound like this year or whatever. So
It's a weird feeling to see a song that you know is a banger that just kind of like falls away. But I always like to think that my unified theory on all art is that if you don't bring an idea to light, it will kind of like walk off and end up in someone else's mouth. So like those ideas, they stick around. It's like, am I coming out or not? I'm not. Okay, cool. And then kind of like somewhere out in the world, that kind of energy finds its way out. And cool. Hopefully, that's what I hope at least for those ideas.
I do think we're planning on taking some of those older songs and actually recording them as singles now. So it won't all just be new stuff. It'll be a mix of what we never got to put out. So I think that'll be
new to you, old to us.
Is it
Yeah.
possible to take some of the old stuff and make it heavier?
Well, I think that's kind of what happens live already. If
I
you-
was just gonna say the same exact thing. If you see it live, it's way heavier than it is
Menders,
on the album.
Menders are the same way. Like I think
Yeah.
a lot of it.
That was something also that led to this evolution is actually at that house show that I talked about, I remember someone came up after and said, I really like the album, but like seeing it live, like you guys are so much heavier and there's so much heavier versions of it. And so I was like, well, I guess that's what we got to start doing.
And if you listen to Fenrir, I think it's a pretty good representation of what we do live, which
yeah.
is our newest thing.
And,
so.
and if you guys have the recording, we'll put that at the back end of the episode. We'll end the episode with Fenrir so that the people watching can get a taste of that and get a little taste. Now, will that be played on the 16th?
Yes,
Okay,
definitely.
But Freya,
Well, so Freya is the non-heavy era stuff. Yeah. So no, we haven't played that one live at all. That
and I
one's-
don't know if we could unless we had
we would
backing
need
tracks
like
and
a keys player and whatnot for that. But
yeah,
yeah.
I went ham on it. I did like all the orchestration
It's
and
a
stuff on
good
it, and
song.
it took me.
this is my magnum opus, guys. We're never playing it live.
Yeah, straight up though. Yeah, it's very
synth solo.
Mew.
It'll
I
never
don't-
be finished.
You know the band Mew, the lead guy. He did a whole like a Copenhagen Symphony or whatever version of his like rock band songs, and you could tell he put a lot of work into it, but it did not land, I think, as he intended. So go listen to it. It's pretty cool though.
It's good. It's good to have those abilities with keyboards in your back pocket musically. I'm sure like whatever we do in the future will have like a little bit of that, but it's always like an extra layer.
I've always wanted us
versus
to have another
composition.
guitar player or another something because 3-piece is hard.
That's what's fun.
It's
about
hard,
it, though.
but it is also part of our strength too.
The cool thing about a band only having 3 people is that there's always a fourth person's job that has to be divided amongst the other 3 people. I think that's why I love 3-piece bands so much. Is that they always have to figure out a way to make it work.
So like Rush.
That is full circle.
I'm the only one brushing it. But you're right, because like with Geddy Lee, like he's always triggering like synth pads and stuff. Like he's doing like
surrounded by things.
yeah, he's surrounded by things. So I like that. Like oh man, we got to figure it out. Because if you have a second guitar player, you don't have to do it. You don't have to work as hard. You know what I mean? That's not to say that there's some great.
And you've
two
got
guitar
one more
players.
person that's in the mix that you got to worry. I mean, you guys seem to have this connection among the three of you. This like level of respect and understanding and accountability and responsibility and
Introducing a fourth person.
introducing a fourth. Yeah, that'd
Unless
be
you can
really,
find somebody you can just say, do what we tell you.
Yeah. It would have to be a hired gun. Like it would have to it'd have to be a hired gun. Be like, just do this.
If there is 4 members, then I would start thinking more on like Aerosmith kind of analogies then, because I love Aerosmith a lot too.
Well, I've always tried to get Dave to join though. Dave Lemke, who
Great guitar player.
I played with Witch Motel, but yeah, he just can't. So I don't know. I think that's just me wanting to focus more on vocals or whatever to try to get that where I want it. But yeah, I like the challenge too of the 3, and obviously we have a language that only us 3 can speak. So
Yeah,
it
we
is
pushed you
difficult.
pretty hard to like say, hey, can you play this riff and sing it? And then you're like, yes. And then I say, okay, now can you play the riff twice as fast? And can you sing it now? And then you're like, yeah, no. So there's been a good degree of kind of figuring all of that out and what's going to actually work live versus not.
And the next single after Fenrir will be a song that I
Thor.
wrote. This one breaks the
Ragnar.
This one breaks the pattern. It's going to be called Revenge.
That's not breaking the pattern at all.
Well, yeah, I guess you're right, but no, you'll see that it's separate. But anyway, I wrote it just on guitar, and then I had to write a melody, and then I had to figure out how to play and sing that at the same time. So yeah, we're
A
pushing
doozy.
ourselves to our limits for sure.
Yep.
yeah.
Don't be afraid to use a backing track if you have to. There's no shame.
Oh,
I argue with him about this a lot. I'm not against it, but Jason's like, nah, we can do it.
So, okay. I play
Pros and
with
cons.
bands that use backing tracks and use click tracks and stuff like that, and there's a lot of benefits to it. It's a lot tighter live a lot of the time.
We've done it ourselves in a band too.
Yeah, and so for sure that's great, and you're able to add like new textures and dynamics. And there's always the age-old question of like, what is too much? Like if you've got like lead guitar lines playing in while you're playing,
that's cheating.
That's cheating.
That's a rhythm backtrack. That's okay.
Keyboards and percussion.
Me and Zach,
usually.
a couple years ago, we saw one of my favorite bands, Leprous. They brought a cello player out for the tour. They're from like Eastern Europe or whatever, and the cellist was just a prop. They had the backing tracks playing his stuff,
Oh,
and it's probably
that's
because
gross.
having a cello in a small, very very loud venue is very hard to dial in the mix. But it just took something away from.
Do you think
the
they did
experience,
that just for that night, or
I
did
don't think
really-
I don't think they did. I think it was genuinely because he was in the mix. He
Well,
was just
I'll attest to
Easy money
that.
for
We had the band that plays at the Renaissance Festival, the Crack. We had them here last week, and they have bagpipes, they have a cellist, a fiddle player, and when you're starting to work with, I feel like exotic is the wrong word, but exotic instruments, it does get more and more challenging with dialing in the sound. You have to fuck with the frequencies. More
mics on stage.
The EQs, and it was challenging dialing it, and even throughout the night, we hit a couple of bumps, like trying to get things right.
yeah.
It can
Definitely.
present a completely new challenge that a lot of people aren't prepared to deal with.
Right. And if they were on a stage maybe 4 times the size with an audience 4 times the size and 4 times size of the building, then it probably wouldn't be as much of a problem.
Right.
But, you've got these like fairly low ceilings and these like plaster walls and
We're working on that.
rock floors and stuff
we're
like
working
that.
on it.
And it's not even like a comment of this place, but
Use
it's a
what you
comment
got.
of all places this size or even slightly bigger.
It's almost like you don't even need to mic them because the instruments are kind of meant to be loud anyway because they're acoustic. Just play
But you
louder.
have to because then they get drowned out by blasting guitars and stuff. You know,
True.
so like there's lots of options. But
Well, what I wanted
yeah.
right now, I'm trying to find someone to partner with me to. I want to build some acoustic panels for the back wall of the stage to absorb some of the cymbal and snare, because the one, like, we have a great sounding room. We're not the best in the world, but I mean, you're going to have to go a couple hours away to find a room that sounds as good as ours, if not further. But we do need something to soak up the snare and cymbal, and if we get that piece in place, it'll put us on like a whole, like, people we'll start getting bands that will take a pay cut to play here.
Good old rock wool, baby.
Yeah,
Solves all the problems.
but I don't know shit about building acoustic panels, but I have materials at home to build them
Right.
with. I just need to find someone to help me build them.
I'll go ahead and tell you that panels, unless you have a whole lot of them and they're big, which is going to cost
I just cut down a
thousands of
bunch.
dollars.
Okay,
for
so I just
each
cut down
place.
a bunch of trees on
Yeah.
my property, and I brought a sawmill out, and I cut them all into 2x6s and
Mm-hmm.
2x4s. And right now they're drying out because they're fresh cut, and we cut them true twos. So we're going to take them back and plane them and get them squared up after they've dried out.
Right.
I want to use this lumber to build acoustic panels with, and I have a shitload of it.
Sweet.
So I just need to find someone that knows how to build the panels.
I have some experience the same as Gavin. You should. I'll
And it's
help you
all
out.
white pine, by the way, so it's soft and it'll absorb real easy.
Nice. Use rock wool if you're looking for something to fill them with.
Rock pool,
Rock wool.
rock wool.
Yeah, rock wool works great.
an
Mass loaded
insulation, I
vinyl
believe.
is a really.
Let's have this conversation now. People are going to fucking check out.
Hey,
Let's
sorry,
talk about this after the
everybody.
show. Yeah.
Message me and I'll let you know all of my information. It's I've been an apartment drummer for years and years and years, and you got to come up with solutions to.
I'll offer
to
my
stuff. So
labor.
just, reach
I'll
out
help you
anytime.
out.
And I know people that actually professionally can come in and like meter your room and get it to where it needs to be. I'm not that guy.
I know a guy, but he's a little.
They always are.
We're not talking about
Reach
it.
out to me, buddy. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, your rooms always sound so good. The new one is like dead.
Yeah, my studio moved to Spartanburg, and before I was renting someone's basement, I wasn't able to do anything to it really other than just hang my own panels. And
It worked though.
I've got my own room now, and my goodness, it sounds
Tight.
pretty good. Yeah,
It's very good.
but anyway, yeah,
We'll talk. Yeah, I want to get some information.
please
after
do,
you say.
please do.
Let's promote the show a little more. I think I'm getting away from Ron. We're running long.
We're stuck running our
Yeah. So I'm gonna let's take a moment and go through each band, like, kind of again, like, so Welcoming's going to be opening the show. Is that right?
Yes, I think so. I think they requested open.
All right. So Welcoming, they're kind of more like a straightforward hard rock kind of.
They're progressive. I mean, I would say they probably get the Rush comparison a lot too, but they're heavier. Yeah.
So we'll have the Welcoming come on, and after them, who are you going to put on second?
Gosh, we're talking lineup now. I'm not actually sure if we know the exact order that night, but yeah, Fury 58 is in there. We will probably go on last since we're kind of hosting, and yeah, OU Pretty Things, pretty much wherever they want to go. But I just think it's going to be a nice mix of heavier progressive rock, lighter progressive rock, pop, metal.
Yeah, and Fury and Oh You Pretty Things are both, they're here pretty regularly, and the last couple times that they've been here, they've had the fortune of having the crowd sing their songs back to them and stuff. So, like, they've the last year and a half, 2 years, both of those bands have been putting in a lot of work in the local scene to get their stuff out there. Yeah. Oh You Pretty Things just released a new album 2 weeks ago, which is really, really good. Fury, they've been dropping singles. You guys, do you have a timeline on because you said you want to start doing singles to build up to an album? Like, when can people expect to start hearing the new stuff?
Yeah,
My hope is that we could have the single Revenge out before that show. It'll be tight if we do, but it'll be right around that because we're ramping up. We have a big November in general.
There's a lot of Morrowville shows in November. It's pretty crazy.
But yeah, I mean,
Good. I'm
Fenrir,
happy
we're
for you
familiar.
guys.
Thank you.
I'm very happy for you guys. I mean, it's no secret. Zach was one of the first people that I started talking to before this place ever existed, and we have a friendship, and I'm grateful for it. I love you to death, man. Like, I love supporting your projects. Eventually, I want to get an Any Arden show in here, but I know that's tough for you. I know that there's a lot of weight that comes with that. So I'm going to be patient and wait for the right time.
We'll talk about it. I think I'm open to it now. It's been a while, so.
Was it time? What is the equation?
Time heals all wounds.
No, there's like.
It's basically that. I know what you're getting
Time
at.
plus tragedy. That
Yes.
One? Yeah, time plus tragedy equals comedy.
There you go.
Yeah.
There. Thank you, Bob. That's why you're here.
Yeah. Random useless shit. I'm here for the random useless shit. That's it.
Every podcast needs that person.
And the rush mic drop, definitely.
But anything else you want to share before we start wrapping up? I mean, if you want to promote the other shows, you can. Where are you going to be at and when?
What's the tour, Zach?
Yeah, so this is it starts in Asheville, actually, so hopefully all of that is still good. I know that the venue is open, and I've been talking to the Welcoming a bit about that because they're from Asheville. So we're starting 11/14 in Asheville, then in Hickory, where
At the Odd.
At the Odd. Fury 58's territory in Hickory at Randolph's Billiards the next night, and then we're ending things here with a full.
I love billiards clubs. I always assume it's just gonna look like the spot from Terminator 2 when Arnold walks in buck naked. That part, like, I assume they're all like that because, like, that one place. Remember that show we went to at that bar? I don't think you played it.
I don't know.
Anyway,
it was that exact thing.
yeah, it's kind of our first, at least in a long time, our first little mini tour outing.
It's easily the biggest tour
Jokingly
we've ever done.
calling it our North Carolina World Tour. That's what the Welcoming made the poster. But yeah, I'm just super stoked, and I just want to say how grateful I am to you for always having a spot for us, and if we disappear here and there, and hopefully we're just ramping up, and that's about it.
Because this will be the final spot on the tour. So
Yeah, so we're ending.
So we can make it a big party. Come hang out on Saturday, November 16th. Yeah, you've always got a spot here, man. I love you guys to death. I love your music. I love your vibe. I love your attitude. All of it. You're exactly the type of people I love working with. So thank you for letting us host.
we try to, I think, be very professional. Like no one's gonna show up like slippity sloppity drunk and not able to play their instrument. It's just not what we do.
No, I mean all four bands on this bill treat this craft with respect and reverence, and
they do.
like
becoming more common.
Yeah, everyone
Yeah.
promotes. Everyone does all the things you should do. So which is why you should be here on the 16th.
Yep.
I'm pointing at the camera.
It's another camera. I know it's there.
Camera's like, what'd I do?
And come check them out. You can get tickets in advance at theroostergastonia.com. Go to the events tab. Buy tickets for this show and any other shows you want to come to. Doors will be open at 6 o'clock. We're going to have a good time. Bob, you got anything else?
Nope.
Ariel?
You don't have any Tims?
I'm spent.
Okay, I don't have any. I'm good.
Thank you so much for doing this, fellas. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Love the new set.
Peace and love.